Hello, this is Antoine with another episode of Out and Up, where we encourage young athletes to achieve their very best outside of the game. And like every show, we're blessed to have another awesome guest. And you know how I do. I'm gonna go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Dylan Barnes. I'm a women's soccer player at Middle Tennessee State University, majoring in biochemistry on a pre-med track.
Thank you, Dylan, for joining us. You ready to get into the questions?
Yes,
All right, Dylan. So where you originally from, born and raised?
I'm from Baltimore, Maryland originally.
All right. When did you start getting involved in sports?
I've always been into sports since I was 3 years old. My mom made sure to put us in it early. So I've been playing multiple sports, soccer, lacrosse, basketball, tennis, golf, a bunch of other things too.
Wow. So you're playing soccer currently, but is that has that always been your favorite sport?
At a time it was lacrosse, and then I got back into soccer being my favorite sport, and then I just stuck with that.
All right. So the other sports, did you play some of them through high school?
I played basketball all the way through high school. I had torn my ACL my freshman year of high school. When I first started playing varsity soccer, I tore it in a game. So I was out for that season, and then COVID hit. But I was always a manager on some team, for basketball or soccer. I always made sure I was involved.
All right. So what were some of your highlights, I guess, in your youth on through high school when it came to soccer?
Well, I was always excited to play with my sisters. We're all close in age. So I played with the middle one, Darren Barnes. We played together for a year, my senior year, so that was really fun. Um, I guess always being really competitive with my friends. I always made sure I was close to my teammates because I'm very extroverted. Um, and then playing college soccer is always something that I wanted to do.
All right, all right. What was the competition level like playing in Baltimore?
Well, I went to friend school, so we aren't as competitive. But I think that I like that more because I played club sports. So like having a disconnect between my competitiveness and just being able to be myself was something I really enjoyed. Um, but I think club soccer is really competitive and just the adrenaline you get from every game wanting to win and wanting to celebrate with your team afterwards is something that I really enjoyed.
Wow. What was the club soccer team that you played for?
I played for Baltimore Celtics.
Okay. And so I always like to ask our athletes that come on to the show, whether it's, travel sports, club soccer, with football, Pop Warner, AAU, basketball, how important do you think it is for the young athlete that really wants to play on the next level? How important do you think it is for them to play a travel sport or for a club team?
I think it's really important, especially if you don't go to a high school that helps with recruiting as much, or doesn't get as much publicity when it comes to sports like McDonough or like the really big private schools when it comes to athletics making the state championships every year. So I think it's really important to play travel sports and also just to see different parts of the country, and where you might want to go to school is something that I really paid attention to when I was growing up.
All right. So playing club soccer, like what were some of your experiences as far as travel? Were there some areas that you enjoyed going to, teams that you enjoyed competing against? Like what was your experience playing club soccer?
I loved club soccer. It was really fun. Always traveling every other weekend. I think my favorite place to go to is probably California. We went for playoffs. And I haven't been before. That was my first time going, and it was very different. And it kind of showed me that that's not somewhere I want to live when I'm older. But I do enjoy visiting. Always good food. The weather's nice and the beaches are nice, but I really love the East Coast. I think also Florida was probably one of my favorite places. Like I really loved going to the warm places, and playing where the weather was nicer.
Okay. So from your experience, what were some of the things you were able to do to really grow your game and practicing away from, club soccer, away from high school or, even playing for your local teams? What were some things you took into your own hands and making you getting better at the sport?
Well, I made sure that I was working out on my own. My mom had gotten us a gym membership, so I made sure to go to the gym and run. I didn't really do any heavy lifting until I got to college, but just running. I also have two younger sisters who also play soccer, so I got that advantage of being able to compete with them at a high level, go play pickup soccer with some grown men at our local park. I just made sure I was immersed in it pretty much, and I made sure that it was still fun for me and it wasn't just work.
Wow. And so I hear you talk about it. I've had other guests, especially soccer players, that talked about playing against maybe brothers or other guys of course some of the young ladies I've had on the show playing against them guys, how it helped to make them tougher. Did it do the same thing for you?
I definitely feel like it made me tougher practicing and playing against boys, even just going to play pickup with male teams. I think that the game on the men's side is faster, more physical, and it just helped me build my confidence mentally and physically when it came to playing in my own league, and just applying that to my own game.
All right. So we'll ask in high school for you. I want to touch a little bit on the academic end. Like for the young person that's listening, what are some keys to being able to make sure you keep a balance and prioritize academics along with being a athlete? What were some things you did throughout your high school career?
Well, my mom is big on organization and setting your priorities and goals beforehand and before you go into whatever you want to do. So I took that with me. I made sure I put my schedules in my calendar and a planner so I can write it down as well as see it pop up on my phone. Um, my time management skills, I made sure to just develop them over time in high school and just be very proficient on that, especially since I knew I wanted to go to the next level and that my schedule is going to be busy most of the time. Um, I just made sure I put reminders on my phone about what I needed to do, wrote down lists. I like carrying post-it notes with me around. So if I just need to see it, I can see it. And also, I had a mentor who told me if it only takes 2 minutes, just get it done. So I just made sure I do that, carry that with me.
That's great advice. Great advice. And so I want to ask, at what point in high school did you recognize you had the ability to play on the next level?
I feel like I knew that in middle school, going into seventh grade, that I could play college soccer if I really wanted to play college soccer. But I feel like anybody can play college soccer or college sport if they just do the work and are willing to do the work because that's what coaches are looking for, just someone who's willing to put in that effort. Um, I guess high school, it really started to come when I had coaches coming up to me and telling me that they were interested, or going to my coaches and telling them that they were interested and that I could play at the next level as long as I just keep working. Um, then I just kept working from there academically and athletically.
All right. So what was your recruiting process like? Like when did it start for you, and were there a lot of schools that you were looking at during this process?
Well, I didn't really know where I wanted to go. I didn't have my mind set on a school until my junior year. So at that point, it was kind of too late to reach out and be like, oh, I'm interested in this. I want to go to your school, go to camps, things like that. Also, COVID really messed up my recruiting process, along with tearing my ACL my freshman year. Um, I didn't really get many looks from ninth grade to 10th grade because the NCAA just shut down recruiting process during that time. So I didn't really start getting looks until my junior year. Um, but I feel like I went on a lot of visits, mostly D3, and then I got my D1 looks towards my senior year, the beginning of my senior year. So it was very hectic, I would say, and stressful, especially when you're applying for colleges and trying to figure out where you're going to go for the next 4 years, while also wanting to play a sport and making sure they have my major and are my grades good enough to get into this college. So.
All right. So you're now where? Let everyone that didn't catch it at the beginning, you're playing where at?
Middle Tennessee State University
Okay, that's located.
in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville.
All right. So did you have a short list of schools that you were looking at during that final process of choosing Middle Tennessee?
I definitely did. I didn't commit until I would say maybe February, late February of my senior year. which was really late in the recruiting process. Like that usually doesn't happen often. Um, but I was going to commit to Delaware State before then until I went to that campus. But I also had looks from Grambling. Um, I wanted to go to Old Dominion, some Ivies. My list was all over the place, all over the East Coast. I had like 12 schools I was really looking at that time.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, what was the deal breaker for choosing Middle Tennessee?
It was who wanted me for soccer. But also just going on campus, I actually felt at home when I first got at campus on campus, and that's not how I felt at any other school that I've been at, and I haven't said that about any other campus. I feel like the coaching staff really sold it to me, and the teammates that I have now. The energy was great, the environment was welcoming. And it's also a bigger school, but it's not too big to the point where it takes me 30 minutes, 40 minutes just to get to my classes. And I don't have to get a scooter or anything. I can just walk. Also the cafeterias, like I'm big on food. I love my food.
Okay.
We have three different cafeterias, so that was great. And then also that it wasn't just dirt, essentially, like there was a city that I could go to. There's a city of Murfreesboro that's really nice. So I like that a lot.
All right. Was that tough for you transitioning from the Maryland area, then moving to Tennessee? Was it a big change for you?
It was very different. The people in the South are very different than up north. They're very nice that I wasn't used to yet. That Southern hospitality is real, and I wasn't expecting it to be that real. I also just think that it wasn't as busy. Like I feel like I have more time and so much time to manage than I did when I was in Baltimore in the city.
All right, all right. I've definitely also had to go through that transition early. It wasn't tough for me, I guess, because my parents were from the South, but I also have gotten adjusted. So now the funny thing for me is when I go back home to New Jersey, I have to be careful just walking the city, walking the whether I'm in New York City or in New Jersey somewhere, just speaking to everybody. I have to remember I'm not back in North Carolina area anymore. So that's where the transition kind of hits me now when I go back home to visit. But it's definitely a difference between up north and being in the South. And so if you're speaking to the young athlete right now, what are some things you would advise them to look at when deciding where they're going to continue their college career at?
I would say you really need to pay attention to what you want to do when you're older, and have a plan set for your life. Um, or at least just an idea of something that you would like to do. I would also say go somewhere where they at least have a place where you can get an internship for your major. That's something I really paid attention to. Just being able to make connections in college, outside of college, make sure that I'm introducing to myself to older people or even just people around school because you never know who someone might be when they're older or who someone is right now. I also think just making sure that you're going to have fun. It's your experience, it's your journey, it's nobody else's. So you just go where you feel the most at home and safe and comfortable.
All right. All right. What is also same group of kids we're talking to them? What would be the one thing you tell them um, that you've maybe witnessed other student athletes or other students kind of get themselves in trouble, making that transition from still being dependent and having parents at home, going to high school, and then transitioning, being a student athlete on the college level? What are some things they need to prepare themselves for?
I would say, and from my perspective, that independence was real, like really different. Like I didn't have somebody telling me when to come home, what I needed to do every day, my tasks for the day, things like that. Like you just have to have your own plan set for each day. So I would say one, do your homework and read your syllabus when you go to college. Like that's something that teachers really pay attention to, and it's so simple to do. Like get the simple things done first, and then you can have as much fun as you want as long as you get what you need to get done.
All right. So now you're in your second year in college. You're going into your sophomore year.
Mhm.
What was your experience like that first year on the soccer
Okay.
field?
I think I had a very good experience for a freshman. I got good minutes, which is something that I wasn't really expecting. Um, I wasn't expecting to play as much as I did. I also think that I wasn't used to it being every day, going from early morning practice, 7 a.m., right into lift, right to classes. So my days were very long. Um, I also think that it was just fun. Like I had a lot of fun. I think my team were very close. I made some really good friends this year on and off the field. That I just really appreciate having that experience, especially being so far from home. I got really homesick during the season. So just having that support. Um, but overall, I would say it was a great experience. And if I could do it again, I would do it again and change some things. Like would I eat before a practice or something like that? But I think it was a great experience for me overall.
All right. So going into your second year, are those things that you that you were able to look back at and see that you could do? Are those things that you're now implementing to prepare for your second season?
Yes, I'm preparing way more than I did my freshman year. Making sure that I'm doing every workout every day, running every day, eating properly and not just eating what I want to eat. I think freshman year I was used to just eating whatever and being good for game days and practices, but going into college I really did couldn't do that. I had to eat better. So I think that's it's helped me that way. Um, and just finding myself and what I want to do even more, making those connections
All right.
earlier.
So great, great. So with the strenuous schedule that you were talking about on the college level, did it affect you at all when it came to your academics and being able to transition from high school to college academically?
I would say first semester, no, it didn't. I had a very lenient schedule where I could have fun, go out, um, to brunch or whatever with my friends, play soccer, and get my work done. But second semester, I would say that's when it really hit me. I didn't realize that I put too much on my plate at one time. I tried to take two science classes back to back without knowing that I had to take 2 3 hour labs with that. Try to join clubs and just try to do too much essentially. Um, so it was just too much.
All right. All right. So I will ask, what are you actually majoring in?
Biochemistry.
All right. And what are some career goals you have outside of the game with what you're majoring in? What are some of your career goals?
I want to go to med school, and then hopefully go into specializing into anesthesiology. And then I want to either pursue my own practice or work in a hospital.
All right. And so doing my little bit of homework, I was watching one of your other videos on your page, and you were influenced, I believe, from your experience of going through an injury. Is that something that kind of motivated you or encouraged you to kind of get into the field that you're looking to get into?
Yeah, so I had gotten into it. I've always known I want to do something in STEM. Since middle school, since sixth grade, that's when I really started getting into it. But I feel like my going into ninth grade is when I really was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to work in medicine. I tore my ACL freshman year of high school. And just I had my own anesthesiologist who I really liked. She was very nice to me. Both of them were very nice to me, a male and a woman. Um, and I was just really interested. I guess going into surgery, they put me to sleep like that. Like it was just, well, I couldn't even count the two before I went to sleep. And that just really struck my interest in it and my curiosity, and like how that works, how they know when enough is enough, how to know when I'm gonna wake back up, pain management, things like that. I had a nerve block and I was just asking questions afterwards, after the anesthesia wore off, obviously. Um, but it was just, I don't know, it just really struck my interest. Also, my father had passed away that same year. So I think that really also struck my interest in it. And just how medicine works and how we just deal with things like that in the Black community, like racial disparities, stopping heart diseases early, making sure people are going to get checkups. That's also something that I wanted to get into, but I just don't want to touch people. I don't want to
Okay.
do surgery or anything like that, but I still want to be in the room, which is why I picked anesthesiology.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about that. You kind of led right into my next question. I again saw some videos where I believe you did a report or something on the racial disparities in the medical field. Let's talk about that a little bit and just what you've experienced and what you've been able to learn in your research.
So after my dad passed away, I got an internship in bioethics. And really I just focused my project that I had to do on health disparities in the Black community primarily, and then I kind of went more general, just because there was more data on the whole world as a whole. And just I worked with different people, talking to different minority groups about access to healthcare, and why people don't really reach out when something is wrong. And it was just talking about slavery and kind of how that mistrust in medicine really affected the Black community, and it just has kept going on from there, like a domino effect. Um, and I just kind of we stopped after a while. Like I only did that for a couple months. I presented it to Mayor Brandon Scott, as well as a couple other parents and peers around. We had like a little conversation about it. And I also talked about I did my actual project on um terminating ectopic pregnancies, because also Roe v. Wade had happened that year,
Okay.
the termination of that. Um, but people would come up to me and we talked about Black women and how that affects Black women, more than white women, minority groups, things like that. So that's kind of what struck my interest in racial disparities in healthcare.
That's good. That's good. It's just good to hear a young person that has a heart and passion for making a change and really getting involved. I really wish that more of our young people would do more research on subjects like such. I think that just what you're doing, I think, is awesome, and hope that you can really continue to learn and in gaining a position in the medical field, be able to have an impact on bringing about change. So continue the great work that you're doing, Dylan. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
I guess next I want to ask, what are your goals when it comes to soccer? Do you have goals to play beyond college, or do you have a heart for finishing out your college career and really just going feet first into the medical field?
Yeah, I really just want to finish out my college career and go feet first into the medical field right after I'm graduated that same year, hopefully, if not the next. Um, I didn't want to ever put a hold on my education. I just wanted to get it done, and not have to go back, because I feel like for me, it'd be harder to go back into it after playing soccer if I got the opportunity. I don't feel like I would go back and do what I really wanted to do.
All right. So, what are some things that Dylan does outside of school and outside of sports? What are some things you do?
I talk to my family every day. I love them. I'm very family oriented. I'm best friends with my sisters and my mom and my dog. He gets on the phone too. Um, I hang out with my friends. We like to go out to brunch a lot. Hang out together. Even if it's just getting together, cooking a little meal, watching a movie, and then going home. Just I like to be around the people that I love.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so, have you ever had the opportunity to mentor or even train any other young student athletes?
I've had the opportunity to. I trained a couple of kids from my school if they asked me to, or they'll come practice with me if they ask. I'm like, okay, like that's fine. We can practice together, whatever. I've also tutored a young girl, a fifth grade girl in math um during my first semester of college. That was really fun getting to do that and helping her and mentor her throughout her college career, because I never thought I'd be the type to say, "Oh, I went through this too," or "I know where you're coming from. I used to be this age." Like I really felt like my mom. So I feel like that's something I really liked, being able to mentor somebody younger than me.
Wow. And what was that experience like? Just being able to give back to another young person coming up behind you.
It felt really nice, really good. Even just to just kind of reminisce on what I was like when I was younger. It made me feel old, but it did like give me some happiness at the end of the day.
That's good. That's good. Now you've had an opportunity to live in a place like Tennessee, and you still have your love for back home. I see differences with everybody. Some people are eager to get back to an area that they're used to. Do you see yourself staying in the South once school is over?
I feel like I could, now maybe not Tennessee. I don't think I'd stay in Tennessee, but I feel like I do really like the South. The weather's always nice, no snow really. Well, there is snow in Tennessee, which I wasn't expecting, but other places in the South, there's not snow.
Right.
Um, I really do like the South, and I always thought about living in the South, but it's not set in stone. Like I'm not sure yet, because I really do love being home and being up north.
Okay. And so we're going to wrap it up and get into the last two questions. I always love to ask every guest, how important is it to have positive people in your circle?
It's so important. I mean, I think I fall caught myself a couple times falling into surrounding myself with people who were just had bad auras and just bad energy. And then that would spring onto how I would act and my attitude towards different people. And I had to really take a step back and reflect and be like, okay, this isn't me, and that's not somebody I want to be perceived as. Um, so it's really important. I feel like the people that you hang out with are a kind of a version of you that people will see and associate you with. So just making sure that you have good people around you will help you make better connections, and also just have better energy to give off.
All right, that's awesome. And I have my last question, but I'm actually going to go to one other question I just want to ask because 2 weeks straight, my shows, people will see I've had guests on who had to go through injuries. So for the young athlete who may face an injury, and you say you tore, was
My
it your
ACL.
ACL? What were the things that mentally and emotionally and even physically helped you to be determined to make it back? Because some people suffer injuries like that and they're never the same anymore. What were the things that helped you get through that process?
I think I had a really good support system around me. I leaned on my mom and my sisters the most, especially when I needed it at that time. I think just being stuck in my room for months, because I had also torn my meniscus at the same time, so I was done. I couldn't walk for a month essentially. So having them around me to just keep me company, doing things that I like reading a book or starting a new hobby. Like I got into jewelry making for a little while just to keep myself busy. Watching shows that I like, inviting friends over. I'm just making sure that I didn't isolate myself.
All right, all right. And so we're gonna get into the last question. Who or what is it that inspires you most in life?
I think my mom and my sisters inspire me the most. My mom is a very determined woman and always makes sure that she puts others' needs before herself, and she's very selfless, which she doesn't get enough credit for. So I really look up to her when it comes to that. And my sisters, they just are balls of energy and my best friends and always supportive and kind to everybody that they meet. Um, I think that I really look up to them in that way, just making sure that I'm always somebody that somebody can approach when and if they need it.
That's good. That's good. Well, Dylan, we thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us to give the awesome information that you've given, being an example as you pursue a career in medical, to even just your research that you've done when it comes to, the disparities when it comes to the medical system. And so we thank you for taking time to be with us. Once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Like every show, I always let y'all know it is awesome to be great in the sport that you're playing, but it's even better to be great in life. So I just ask that you'll take this information, be intentional in applying some of the different tips that Dylan gave us today, apply them to your process. And we just ask that you continue to join us as we provide awesome guests as an awesome resource so that you can continue to go out and up. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next episode.